the Bolsonaro administration is a new thing in Brazilian politics. It's truly a new thing. We're still learning about it. Of course, we know very little. My own feeling is that they themselves are still learning about it and in a way finding how their own identity. And what do we know so far? I mean, I think it's important, and I think several people here have written about this and understand it better than I do, but I will summarize a bit. This is really organically, in the sense that it is a grassroots, bottom-up movement, really a first time of a right-wing movement in Brazil. I mean, we've had experiences like that, the integralismo in the 30s, lacertismo in the 60s, but they were kind of elite movements and kind of splinter groups of the elite. This is really a more organic phenomenon that comes from the bottom. And it's, for that reason, it's not very clear. It's not, they don't have really a consistent ideology, which perhaps is good, exactly what it means to be from the right. I mean, on the easiest way to characterize is the one that we are all encouraged by, I believe, is the liberalism in economic policy and in economic thinking. That is not so new. And in fact, as opposition to the PT grew, the sort of liberal movement in economics took greater force. And the most positive thing that has happened so far in the Bolsonaro administration are the initiatives of this liberal economic thinking. And what is particularly positive about them is that they are continuing the work that was done in the Temer administration. So in many ways, there's been a tempering of the statements that were coming before, particularly from Paulo Guedes, to a much more pragmatic, much more understanding view that really takes pretty much full advantage of the extraordinary work that was done in the Temer administration, despite all the misgivings that administration had. And so that's the positive thing. Then there is this new wave about morals and customs to the right. And that's the one that draws the most attention, of course. It's the one that's most talked about abroad. It's the one that's most feared by segments of the urban middle classes and upper middle classes. And, you know, it's based on some things that are well understood, like the anti-corruption and anti-political establishment movement that has this communality also with a variety of other political movements abroad. It's a Christian and evangelical and religious turn, much more overtly than is common in Brazilian politics. Of course, it's homophobic in many ways. It's pro-guns. It's in favor of get tough with criminals and law and order agenda. So those are the things that are drawing a lot of opinions, and that you know, we'll see how they go. The other part of this that is interesting is that because the Bolsonaro rise was a complete political surprise and came from an inexpressive group politically, for the political system, this is also a surprising development, and it's one that has led to an enormous participation of the military in power. My own thinking about this is that that's not a threat to democracy in any way, and it really represents the fact that the Bolsonaro group had never developed a cadre of operational staffs. And since he was close to the military, he basically draws on them. And I see actually some advantages on this, because the group of military that he has called is the most technocratic side of the military. But there are obviously some implications of this that we still have to see how they develop. I think it's also positive that despite the fact that they maintain the discourse that they are a new way of doing politics, they really have very quickly allied themselves with the establishment. And I think that's Chris will discuss this more, but I think, he doesn't expect any great ruptures on the elections at the lower house or the Senate, and so this is positive. It's in a way a continuation of politics as people knew in Brazil, and not something new. Finally, let me say what I just wanted to make this introduction. This panel really is going to focus much more on the economic outlook and some of the political challenges. And here I think that Bolsonaro has a very positive inheritance. He really got an economy that's already adjusted, that's under recovery, that is deleveraged, without an external constraint, with a stimulative monetary stance, given low inflation, and so in a very good position. Sure, there is a fiscal problem. That's the elephant in the room, and I'm sure we will get a lot more of that discussion today. But somehow the expectation is that this administration will have to deal with the Social Security reform. And this is really the Rubicon it must cross. If it doesn't deal with it, I think all bets are off. And so we will hear more about this. And finally, let me just say again that even on the Social Security reform, they come at an advantage after all the effort that was done under the Temer administration, because this is now a much more digested theme and better understood. So I think that we are, in a sense, more hopeful that something will really be done within this year.